Shalom, friends. It also brings me a lot of joy to sit with you all. I'm really feeling right now the joy of connection. And I think it's not just a nice feeling to have. I think it's actually an important healing that the world needs right now. Feeling connected, yeah? So, friends, let's arrive. Let's arrive. As Rabbi Mark said, let's really give ourselves the opportunity to have a real deep moment of connection with ourselves, with the source of life. And that really requires to set aside the rest for now. This is what Kaddish means, by the way, to consecrate. Let us really consecrate ourselves right now to this moment, to this time of meditation, of learning together. Which means this is another opportunity to put something aside, turn off a device if you still need to do so. Or just kind of turn your heart. Like they say in the Talmud, Masechet Brachot, that the Hasidim Arishonim, the first pious ones, would sit before prayer. They would sit, כדי שיקרבונו את ליבם, so that they could direct their hearts. And so before we open with our little Torah learning before meditation, let's take a few minutes of just really turning our hearts, which really means in Jewish language, turning our attention. Lasim lev in Hebrew is to pay attention to this moment. I want to invite you to close your eyes gently or to gaze down, disengaging with the outside world for a moment and meeting this aliveness from within. A deep breath in and out. In this moment, bringing mind and body and soul together just by bringing awareness to this next breath. And perhaps a sigh. Notice how your body is sitting right now, and if you need to make any adjustment for it to feel even more aligned. And coming to a wakeful stillness. Just being 100%, all my being right now in the next in-breath. And in the next out-breath. Making my full dedicated presence my first offering. My first offering to God. And so, friends, after this moment of quieting, this moment of transition from our day before, to this Torah learning that we'll do together. I want to invite you to come back very gently. Feel free to keep your eyes open if you'd like. We're talking about offerings again this week. We opened last week with Parashat Vayikra. We opened a new book. So after building a kli, after building a vessel to connect with the divine, now we learn how to actually do the connection. And that's korbanot, offerings, which are often translated as sacrifice. And there is some things sometimes that get sacrificed, an animal that gets consumed, that gets eaten, but it really is an offering. And mostly it's an offering that means that we are bringing ourselves closer to the divine. That's what means להקריב korban, to bring closer, to bring close, from the root karov, close. And really saying that when I bring something closer, I bring myself closer. And our parasha opens on ashes. And I know you spoke about it yesterday for those of you who were here. I have a beloved student who shared that in the WhatsApp group of my class. And so I looked into it because I love to learn when I can from colleagues and friends. So I smiled when I saw that my friend David was talking about ashes, because just this morning I thought, actually, this is what I want to talk about. Because this is one of the 4 Shabbatot before Pesach, and this one is Shabbat Para, the Shabbat in which we remember this strange ritual of the Para Aduma, of the red heifer. And it's an animal that's being burnt entirely, and the ashes of it are the device for our purification. So the ashes, what has been destroyed and consumed by fire, become really the vessel for our purification when we come to contact with death. And friends, I can't ignore the context. And when I saw this, I felt it makes so much sense this year, even more than ever, unfortunately, because we are in contact with death much more than we would like to in the moment. And it touches us inside. And so here is a ritual, and thank God for ritual. Thank God for rituals. And I want to share with you a teaching from the Mer Shiloach that I'm learning this year. And this is the part of the commentary I didn't get to study with my Talmidim. So I'm really, really happy to share this with you. And you'll have it with you. So don't worry. Don't try to kind of grasp too many words. Just try to grasp the meaning of what I'm sharing. You'll have the source sheet after with you. We're towards the opening of the parasha, and it's about removing the ashes from the altar. And really it means lifting up, first of all. He says, Ve'herim et hadeshen. Trumat hadeshen. It's like this kind of raising and placing aside the ashes. And here is what the Mer Shiloach is telling us. He's saying, Inyan Trumat hadeshen, because this is the name of this offering, Trumat hadeshen, because these ashes are being offered. Shehaya chota male michata min hamuchalot hapnimiot, the sacrifices that were eaten, that were consumed, and so inside the ashes of the eaten, the consumed sacrifices, shehu more, that teaches us of ira, fear of the divine. And I like to translate it differently. Something that's eaten, something that's consumed, we're not just talking about eating here. We're also talking about what fire does to us. That fire consumes us. And it consumes us in a way that is inside, right? Pnimiot, I can read it also pnimiut, the interiority, my inner life. And this is the way I hear what he means by fear of God. And ira'ah has basically two levels of meaning. One is a kind of elevated meaning, and it's awe. It's awe, it's deep reverence. It's what Heschel called radical amazement. And really, fire is the kind of best parable to understand ira'ah, because fire is both magnificent and poetic and romantic, and it enlightens us and it warms us and etc. And at the same time, it's destructive and it's scary. So that's a great way of understanding ira'ah. But then there is a kind of lower level of ira'ah, and then it becomes more basic, a kind of more basic human emotion, and that's fear. That's fear. And the world is full of fear right now. And perhaps one of the ways, one of the antidotes, it's actually, instead of running away, transforming fear into awe, transforming fear into ira'ah, and letting ourselves, because that's the purification process, right, of the sacrifice, that the fire, we offer something vicariously for our souls. We offer something to the fire of the divine, to be burned, just like our egos, right? That when something is burned and consumed, what's left is the purity of the soul. All the klipot go away, and what's left is the purity of the soul. And here is how the Meshilach is closing this pasuk, and this is really what I wanted to share with you today. V'le'atid, and in the future, yeh rak midat ha'ava sholetet. In the future, only the midah, only the measure, the quality of love will rule. Right now, it's not love that rules in the world. We see that. It's not hard to see, unfortunately. But he says, but in the future, for now, ira'ah. And then you choose in which direction you take it. But know that later, this will give place to love. It's kind of moving from fear to awe. And then from there, from kind of giving ourselves to be burnt by the fire of the divine, right? To be kind of really purified, clarified, because that's what he says, that it's a birur, it's a clarification for the Kohen. What will be left after the ego is in ashes is love. So that's what I wish for us. That's really what I wish for us. And whatever you need in your life right now, whatever you need, if you need healing, if you need serenity, if you need to feel reassured, whatever you need, I want to invite you to start by being love, by loving others, by loving nature, by embodying love. And you'll see things may change. That's my invitation. So friends, let's sit. Let's sit with just that, no expectations, but just making our quiet presence, as we did in the beginning, our offering. Dedicating ourselves to this moment and to this next breath. And letting the thoughts be consumed by the fire of presence, the fire of awareness. It happens by itself. We don't need to do anything. And before it's consumed, it gets to be seen. And that's also how a lot of healing happens. So whatever thoughts come up in this meditation, if your mind feels very agitated, know that seeing this is the healing process. Noticing my mind agitated is a good sign, because it means, wow, there was a lot that needed to be seen and processed. Let it be. Literally, let it be. And just stay there. Just keep offering your presence. Keep re-offering your presence over and over again. So let's sit, my friends. Really make the shift from expecting things from your meditation to just giving love to this moment, to offering yourself to this meditation. Just showing up for each breath, feeling it entirely, showing up for each thought, noticing it, and then coming back to the body. Just like the korban needed to be brought a few times a day, bringing ourselves over and over again to this moment. Simplicity, consistency. Can I offer my most beautiful presence, like a gift to this last minute, like a gift to life, like a gift to each other? Maybe setting an intention to give exactly what I need. If I need love, may I give love. If I need healing, may I be healing for others. If I need peace, may I be peace. That's a good nafochu, a good turning upside down of things after Purim as we walk towards freedom, towards Pesach. So friends, let's take a deep breath in, a deep breath out. Thanking ourselves for our beautiful practice, for giving ourselves the gift of meditation, and getting ready to say Kaddish with Rabbi Mark.
Thank you so much, Rabba Mira. As always, this beautiful practice. Let's seal it with an opportunity for those in mourning, those who are observing a yard site. If it's your custom to join in the Kaddish, to do so, you can put the name or names of those you're honoring today in the chat or after you recite Kaddish. If you're not reciting Kaddish, please stay present for those who are. Create a minyan of support and comfort for them. Thanks to Harry Gilboa for sharing the words on the screen. If you're reciting Kaddish, I invite you to join me by rising in body or in spirit, and you can unmute at this time. Yit Gadal, Dash, Shemei Rabba, Dash, Shemei, Yamlich Malchut Mei, Chayechon, Yomechon, Yedecho Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala, Bizman Kariv, Amen. Yesh Mei Rabba Mevorach, Olam Brach v'yishtach v'yitahar v'yitamam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shmi v'koshav Ela v'yikol b'yirchata v'shurata v'ushbechata b'nechemata ba'amidan ba'alma v'yimru amen. Yesh lama rabban ben Shemaya v'chaim avinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Shesh shalom v'lama v'shaseh shalom Neinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei Israel.
Shalom. Bimrama Huya Shalom. Alinu Kol Yisrael Bimru. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Friends, thank you so much for joining us today. And thanks to Harry Gilboa for holding our space, especially thanks to Rabba, Dr. Mira Neshama Weil for leading us again so beautifully today. Looking forward to conversation with Rabba Mira about the teaching and about the practice in a moment. If you're leaving us now, we'll hope you'll join us tomorrow as we sit into Shabbat together, as we do on Fridays. We'll be led by Rabbi Brian Yosef Schachter Brooks, and very much look forward to that. So we hope you'll join us then if you're leaving us now. And of course, as always, if you have a question you'd like to put to Rabba Mira, please put it in the chat. Preface it by writing question in all caps, and I will try to field those questions and integrate them into our conversation as I can. Mira, thank you so. Oops, where'd I go? There I am. Thank you so much. Touched on so many beautiful things, and it's such a rich teaching. And I, appreciated also the building on our practice yesterday with David Gottlieb. A lot of people would never know that there's so much you can benefit from Parshat Tzav, from what looks like this archaic, ritual of the priests removing the ashes of the daily offering to the side of the altar. And you added something new to it. You layered with the Ishbitz or the Mea Shilach, you added this other layer, right? Yesterday, just to repeat, yesterday, David was teaching about our imagining or understanding the fire on the altar as the light of awareness, and the ashes as kind of the remnants of the unnecessary thoughts that emerge from living in a world of differentiation that are consumed by that fire in the light of awareness. And they still need to be honored. They still have their place next to the altar. And today, I wanted to just reflect back the teaching, and you can, add to, amend it if, as I'm understanding it. The additional layer here is that the fire represents, well, tell me if I got this right, but the fire represents the quality of yirah. As you said, Heschel describes it as radical amazement, awe, but also fear. And I want to invite us to explore that distinction or the relationship between awe and fear. And that and that in the light of the fire of yirah, what emerges out of that is love, is the midah of love, right? First of all, anything you want to, do I have that right? You want to amend that? Add to
So
it?
I'm going to be even more specific.
Okay.
The fire is the divine. The
Mhm.
ashes, and what's interesting in what he says is that the ashes, they really have a function, and the function is it's the reminder to feel awe, to feel ira'ah for Hashem.
Right.
They're the trace of something that's been consumed. And
Mhm.
so the fire is what inspires ira'ah,
Mhm.
and the ashes are really the
Reminder.
reminder, the
Uh-huh.
device. Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's very important, and that's what rituals are for. They give us something palpable, something physical that is just a pointer to something else. That's what it's about, right? And many times, actually, having something physical helps us connect more concretely, rather than to think about, the idea of, oh, I should feel ira. When you
Mhm.
see something burnt into ashes, you're like, whoa, fire is real. That's what it does. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, these are really contemplations. I mean, every time you are in a matter of life and death, because that's also what korbanot are, it touches upon it.
Right.
It kind of sets priorities straight. It kind of, and one of the purposes of it is to wake us up,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know? And what he's saying is that Ira is the first step. We need to have respect. We need to have awe. We need to realize that the world is much more powerful than us, right? Oceans and the sky, that God, which is so important for us humans, because we can really have the hubris. We can really feel, especially since the 20th century, and that we have so much technique and technology, we got to think that we could beat nature, that we could defeat nature.
Mhm.
We got to think, like we're God, and see where it led us. And so Ira is the first step, but he says we should not stop here. In Latid, only love will rule. And I think that is so important, to aim there, to aim not stopping at Ira,
Mhm.
but to really go into love, which is Ira in a way stops me. It stops my ego, right? I have respect and awe and appreciation, but then love is the connection, the giving.
There's so much in what you're saying. I want to just, underline, if it were written, I would be underlining a lot here. number one, what you said about reminders, about the ashes being reminders, and then you expanded that to talk about Jewish practice really as essentially a series of reminders that point us to something deeper than themselves, which is maybe that's a beautiful way of just describing Jewish spirituality, is that these are practices, whether they're brachot, blessings, we say, rituals, mitzvot, they are actions in and of themselves, but they point to something beyond themselves. So I just wanted to, use my highlighter pen to lift that up.
Yeah.
And then the issue of, of what yirah is and how do we experience yirah. You were describing if you were like when we see a fire, or like we see the aftermath of a fire, see the aftermath of a forest fire. I'm thinking about there's so many, some in nature and some, more horrific. But there's idea of something being consumed. And I guess it points me to, like you were saying, in some ways, this points to awareness of mortality. That at that moment of mortality fills us with awe and also some fear, anxiety, right, about being finite beings. There's something in that, of putting ourselves in that position, which is a vulnerable position. We'd rather pretend that we're invulnerable, that we're going to live forever and everything's going to be fine. But to go to that place of touching into that alters us in some way and leads to, I wanted to just point to early, our first sit of this week was with Jenna Zadaka, and she led us in a meditation, progressively thinking about, okay, so if you had a year to live, what would you do? If you had a month to live, what would you do? If you had a week to live, until it came down to, if you, just the last breath, what would be your purpose? It was about a meditation about finding joy in purpose. And it distilled it down to, and it landed where you did today, on love. I would want to manifest love. I want to breathe out love. I want to experience love. So I just wanted to point to that connection between yirah, however you're just, however you want to play with that yourself. I'm interested. How does that evoke the midah of ahava within us?
Yirah?
Yeah. Both in terms of that sense of awe and also the fear part. Maybe you want to speak to the fear part too, because I tend to, that is there. I tend to, because people always think, oh, yirah is always about fear, but actually say, no. It's like Heschel said, it's radical amazement.
Yeah.
That's easier to swallow than the
Yeah.
fear.
It has the two aspects, and I think it's important. It's actually a very deep concept that it tends to be flattened. Again, if I take the example of the fire, of the mountain, of the ocean, there is awe because they're so powerful. And if we use them, if I know how to use the ocean, I can travel, between, Europe and the Americas. But if I don't, and also the ocean can destroy me. And the same with fire. Fire was the beginning of human culture,
Mm-hmm.
but also fire is destructive. And so it's important actually to realize that there are these two dimensions, that in respect, in the notion of respect, there need to be some fear, but not in the sense of I'm afraid, in the sense of I realize I'm in front of something very, very powerful, potentially destructive, and that I have to learn to play by its rules, not by the rules of, my ego, and not being kind of light-minded and etc. Now, I can't remember if it was the Mea Shiloach that we saw it earlier in the year, that said basically, if you take it to, like many things, you can take it to a lower level with mochin de katnut, with a small mind, or you can take it to the higher level, mochin de gadlut, a great mind.
Mm-hmm.
Small mind, it's fear, right? It's just fear. And so in fear, there is no possibility for love because there is no amazement. There is no admiration. There is no wonder. There is no joy. In a higher level, it becomes respect, and respect is the precondition to love and the awe and the appreciation. And so that's the bridge between ira and ahava. And these are the two wings of the way we are invited. Since, I can't remember the oldest sources, but Maimonides really highlights this. This is the way we're invited to connect to the divine, from with one and the other, but not one without the other. I also want to add, because I saw a question, one of the first
Mhm.
question I want to address, that
Mhm.
Gail is asking, how do we know when it's time to pause giving to others and rest
Mhm.
to take care of ourselves? Very important question. And I
Mhm.
would say the indicator is how you feel. Because usually giving is energizing. Yeah. If it's healthy and if it's done in a good measure, it actually, we receive a lot when we give. When we start feeling depleted, mentally or physically, it's a good sign that it's time to stop and pause and take care of ourselves. And it's all about balance. I just wanted to address this because
I appreciate that. Thanks for addressing that. And what would you say to Lori's question? And some people, others, I'm sure have this too. We're reading about these sacrifices of the sacrifices of animals to lead to these teachings. Like how for people who have are sensitive, feel sensitive to that question. How do we deal with that?
Oh, okay. I didn't see the question. For people who are
Yeah.
sensitive to sacrifices of
But
animals?
say like I'll just read her question. I'm so distracted and overwhelmingly tender about the idea that God would demand that we sacrifice an innocent, emotional, sentient being, even if quote just a cow, in order to show our
Yeah.
year and love. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the question.
It's a very good question. I would say two things. The most important thing is we really have to understand that the context, the cultural context is radically different. So what we are sensitive to today, and I am just as you are, at the time, this is what people were doing, right? This is what people were
Mhm.
doing. This was the relationship people had with animals. Now, an
Mhm.
important note is that almost all of the sacrifices, the enormous majority of sacrifices, they were actually eaten. Okay, just like in ancient Egypt, it was the food of the priests. So you would bring an animal, it wouldn't be wasted. It was really roasted and eaten. There was one exception, and that's the Korban Ola, which our parasha opens on,
Mhm.
which is also called the Holocaust, and the red heifer, the Paraduma. But that was extremely, the Paraduma was very, very rare. And it's a symbolic thing of saying at the time, right? At the time, because there was no consideration for animals the way there is today, an animal was basically your possession, just like a wife, by the way, was the possession of men. Just to put things into context, I think it's important to notice, to notice that we are in a radically different context where things mean different, can have a different meaning. So what the significant, the meaning of it was, I have the courage to really lose the value of something that belongs to me. I'm losing the value of it. I'm not going to benefit from eating this animal, but I'm going to benefit from their soul because their soul is going to purify us. Their ashes are going to purify us. So it was very meaningful at the time. Today, if you're sensitive to this, be reassured because there is no temple. It all has become Avodah Shebalev. It all has become bringing our hearts closer. So it's about our hearts.
Beautifully said. And we're at time. Um, Thank you so much. I just want to, before we leave, I just want to put back in the chat so people know the current offerings from Rabba Mira, which many of you I know take advantage of, including morning meditation, which she leads based on the Piasetzner Rebbe and Luzzatto. It's a Mida-based Hashkadah practice. Great opportunity to begin your morning and also studying the weekly Parsha through the lens of the Me'ah Shiloach, the Hasidic commentator that Mira based her teaching on today. So highly recommend those. And you can check out her website as well. So many wonderful resources there. And Mira, as always, we're just indebted to you and grateful. And especially as we've said, each time you're here and every time we have a teacher joining us from Israel, just so grateful to have, especially in these times, to feel the connection with you and with our people there. So sending love to you and to everyone, and support, and a lot of gratitude for having this time with you.
Gratitude to you. Gratitude to everyone.
Okay, everyone. Okay, many blessings. Be safe and well, everyone. We hope to see you tomorrow to sit in Shabbat together.
Thank you.